And then, hello students, welcome you back to operating systems. We are continuing with unit 3. So last lecture we saw about address binding. In this lecture we will see two important topics, that is linking the files by two methods, static and dynamic, and also a new concept called as swapping. So in the diagram in the previous lecture, we saw one diagram where how the user program is getting executed, how it forms the object file, how it is getting linked, then loaded into memory, and the runtime file is executed. So the linking part, we saw one component as the linking part that can be done by two methods, static and dynamic. So static linking means, what is it? So supposing any executable file, if you click the file, it is going to start running. So all necessary contents of the binary file are loaded into the process virtual address space. But every program will have system libraries, library functions, everything has to be loaded. So the simplest method will be to load everything directly into this executable binary file. That is only static linking. So supposing I'm running a C program, all the .h files, everything you are including, which means your source program will be so big. First part will be stdio.h, then any other math.h, whatever you are including, it is like saying that you are putting one after the other into a huge file. If you open stdio.h, you would have seen so many lines of code will be there. So supposing you have written a 10-line code, you add this stdio.h, math.h, probably it will become some 50-60 lines of code. That is the line. That is meaning of static linking. Okay, everything you put together and statically linked all the libraries. That is what you are trying to say. So every program generated must contain copies of exactly the same common system library functions. So library functions I should not change. There should not be any mismatch between the library functions, but everything will be occupying, and it will occupy huge physical memory and disk space usage, because my program size is going to be very huge, because I'm including all the libraries even before I run the program. That is what static linking means. So the disadvantage is it has to be exactly matching the library functions, and huge physical memory is occupied. So this is the understanding. You have the program X, program Y. X will be using a set of static libraries, Y will be using set of static libraries. So during compile time, they get linked. All the libraries get linked with the program. So program X has a set of libraries that will be added. Y has, it will be added, and so on. Whereas in dynamic linking, you are not going to link it in the executing time. I mean, not when the program is getting compiled, but we will include it during the execution time. So memory requirements are reduced. And application support and maintenance cost are also lowered. So the link library determines what are all the dynamic libraries. Meaning to say, you don't need to add them to the code in the initial stage as we did it in the static method. So you can see it in the next slide. Program is there, program X is there, program Y is there. A set of both the programs might be sharing the same set of libraries. So they are not put it into the program, but they are kept aside, and during execution time they are dynamically linked. So the program object size is not large, and spare time is also saved. You are not including it during the compile time, but it is done only during the runtime and execution time. Only during the runtime you are including. You are not including it in the execution or compile time as done in the static method. So dynamic linking is preferred, and nowadays only dynamic linking is mostly happening. Next important topic what we need to discuss is called swapping, because we are talking about the main memory and the storage, the secondary storage, and always we are bringing files from the main memory to the, from the storage, secondary storage to the main memory. So the process can be swapped temporarily out of memory to a backing store and then brought back into memory for continued execution. And why we are doing this swapping operation is because the total physical memory space of a process can exceed the physical memory. So we cannot put all the processes in the main memory, as we discussed in the first diagram we saw. So we have to keep on moving one after the other, and so on. So it can do by means of backing store. So whenever I don't want, I can send it off to the storage, and or I can roll out and roll in. I can set up priority based scheduling algorithms, and whichever is of higher priority will be always available in my main memory. So all these type of techniques we can do. So we will be studying more about all these techniques little later. So the main thing we have to know is there is a swap time, which is nothing but the transfer time, and system maintains a ready queue for this swapping to happen. Normally swapping is disabled because it is going to take time, but if the application requires, we will go for swapping, and it will be started if more than threshold memory is allocated. So if the process requires more memory, then we will try to do this, and it will be disabled once our job is over. If the process operation is over, once it is terminated, we won't do this swapping. So this is the schematic view of swapping. Already in the other diagram also we saw. So the operating system is there, and we have the user space. This is where free memory is available. Now all these processes are in the backing storage, nothing but your secondary storage, your hard disk. So supposing process 1 was here, it is swapped out, and then process 2 is brought here. And after process 2 is executed, that will be swapped out and process 1 will be swapped in. So swapping is nothing but pushing one process out, pushing another process in. That is the operation of swapping, which can be an in operation or an out operation. There is one more concept called as context switch time. See, we have already studied that context switch is the time spent between two processes. That is, in process management we studied bringing a waiting process into execution and sending an executing process into waiting state. That we have already studied. So here in the context of swapping, context switch is the time required for swap in and swap out operation. And swapping is also known as double buffering. But it is however adding overhead. So we will only swap when free memory is extremely low. When our memory is not sufficient, we will go for this swapping operation. And nowadays even mobile devices or systems are using the swapping concept, but typically it is not supported because it's got a very poor throughput between the flash memory of the mobile and the CPU on the mobile platform. It's going to be very small. Both your flash memory as well as the hard disk type memory will be quite small. So the swapping operation may not be very efficient. So instead they are using other methods to free the memory. Like iOS asks for apps to voluntarily relinquish allocated memory, and Android will terminate apps if low free memory. So these type of applications they are building in with the operating system. iOS is an operating system, Android. So they are mobile operating systems. They are including features for swapping, but in a different manner. So you can see in the diagram, all your application list is shown. We show that there is some problem, memory has to be freed. So the process monitor and time tracker will it will launch the switch. That is what it is trying to do, because all these applications are occupying more space. So it is launching the switch operation. The process has monitored that memory is lacking, low memory. So it is launching the switch. So it will find out what it has to do. It has to see the size of memory is this much, free memory is only 30 MB, so we want to free. So it is calling for the configuration manager, and the OS swapping subsystem is enabled. So once this is done, the time tracker will show you how long it took to do this operation. The result will be displayed in your device that the switch operation has been successfully executed. and the memory has been freed. So we'll stop here and continue in the next class. In the same memory management, we have to study the various memory management techniques. So we will be doing a detailed study on the various memory management techniques.